Okay, today I'm going to show you how to create contracts for the tune-ups. So we've got the one-time tune-ups, usually those are $79. We also have the one-year tune-ups, which I think are $150, but I've seen them be $239 now. So there may be a price increase, but the process will be exactly the same. The math will be a little bit different. So once you do a lot of these, it gets pretty easy, but we'll start with the easiest one, which is the one-time service. So we see we've got these ones that are $79. It's just the one-time tune-up. So what we do is we want to go into the invoice. First thing we do is just double check and make sure it looks like this is just a tune-up for $79. So we'll go to the Service Master here. If you click the Service Master numbers, go to Contracts and double click that to open. So I usually pull this down just so I can see the call here, because we'll use that information later. So let's create a new contract. We'll use the Service Master number, which is here, where you can also see it up here. And it is 50339. For one-time service, I usually put HVNC. That just means HVAC non-contract. It doesn't matter what you call it. You can call it whatever you want. You can follow whatever has been done in the past if you want. The naming doesn't matter. You just can't duplicate anything that's been created before. So I'll just call that HVNC. Our start date for any fall contract is going to be 9/1/19. And our expiration date will depend on if it's a one-time or a one-year contract. So if it's a one-time contract, the expiration date of this contract will be March 1st of 2020. So it's 6 months out. If it was a one-year contract, it would be 9/1 of 2020. That's a year out. Our contract amount will be $79. It's just a one-time. Division is 65, and the service type. So here, if you click H, it will bring you right down to the HVAC non-contract. If it's a 1 year, we're going to call it the HVAC prepaid. So this is just a 6-month contract. We're going to call it HVAC NC. And you have to remember to uncheck this box that says reserve accounting, because we are not using reserve accounting anymore. And then we will save that. It'll ask if you want to make this expiration date the expiration of the service location. Just say yes there and say OK. So now we have our contract created, but we need to create a maintenance schedule now. So we go to maintenance, click new. Our task code will be maintenance. If you click M, it'll bring up maintenance. There will be a maintenance call every 6 months, but just one call, the one that we just completed. The first maintenance date, you can put the first day of the contract, which is 9/1/19. And we're just going to call this tune-up, $79. Save that. It'll ask if you want to create maintenance parts. We say no. And then we'll see that we've got this line item here for maintenance. Now we're going to go ahead and complete the maintenance because we've already done this service. This is just the contract portion that we're creating. So when we run the contract report next year, we'll see who is ready for a new contract. So our completion date was 10/18 of 19. Invoice date, we'll keep that the same, 10/18/19. And our invoice number here is 684440. Now if you hit tab, it'll come up and ask you if you want to make this maintenance complete. And so we say yes there, and you'll see it says maintenance done, yes. Now the reason we do all that is just for reporting. When we go to pull reports in the spring, it'll bring up all these people who have maintenance done and whose contracts are expiring, so we know who all is ready for another tune-up. So we'll save that and then get out of all of this now. So now we can do the ticket. I'll go in and put this in my batch. Make this AR. The only thing that's a little bit different about the contract ones is when you click this contract box, you will see the contract that we just created here. And you can highlight that if you want to. You can go ahead and leave the service type as HVAC tune-up. And then usually I go in and I delete that line item they have because it says just HVAC service for some reason. So I delete that. And I throw that $79 back on this HVAC tune-up line. You don't have to do that. Just make sure that your $79 matches the HVAC tune-up service type. Double check any notes in case there's anything special we need to do. as all for this one-time contract. I am going to do another one of those so we can see it again. It looks like there's one here. And yeah, it looks like it's just it is a tune-up. So let's go to the service location, go to contracts, pull this down so I can see that line item, 91241 HV-3, because see they've been doing 1, 2, and then we'll do 3. 91 through 3/1 of 20 for $79. Division is good. The contract type will be this HVAC non-contract, and uncheck the reserve accounting box. We'll save that. Go to the maintenance schedule. Use the maintenance task code every 6 months, 1 maintenance call, and first maintenance date is the 9/1. And we're just going to call this tune-up, $79. We're not creating any maintenance parts. And our completion date, again, is 10/18/19. And we'll put in our invoice number, tab, and yes, mark that maintenance as complete. And we can save that and get out of here. And then we just basically complete the ticket like normal. Choose that contract. It says HVAC tune-up. And then I just make sure the line item says HVAC tune-up, $79. Another thing that I do for the tune-ups that I did not do on the last one, but I'll go back and fix that. Before you approve the invoice, go down here to change invoice number and put a T behind that. The technicians get paid a special rate on tune-ups, so when I pull their commission reports, if I see that T, then I know to do that pretty easily, so I don't have to go through and check every single invoice. And the only thing to remember on changing invoice numbers is just make sure you do it before you approve the ticket. So I'm going to go back to that one we did before, and we'll see I didn't put the T behind this. So if you unapprove, go back to change that invoice number, and then just reapprove it, then you'll be good. So then when I pull the report for Patrick, then I'll know to pay him the extra commission on the tune-ups. Okay, so that's all for the one-time contracts. It's a lot of steps, but once you get the steps down, you can do them pretty quickly. We're going to do a 1-year contract now, and you'll see normally it's going to be this $150, sometimes $239. Sometimes you'll just have to go in to the ticket, look at the notes, and see what they say. So if we go in here, it looks like Jason did say that they paid $150 for the annual contract. So that's really helpful to us to know what the customer's intention was. If they had paid $150 and it was for a repair and just a one-time tune-up, maybe we don't know that unless he says something. So this is good that he's putting that in there. So first thing we do is go to the service location and go to contracts. Double click that to open it up, and I'm going to pull this down again so I can see. New contract 99799 HV, we'll just call it -3 because again they're just going in order here. Our start date is 9/1 of 19, like every contract this fall. Our expiration will be 9/1 of 20, so we want it to be 1 year away. $150 contract this time, and we're going to pick the HVAC prepaid type. That's for 1 year. And uncheck that reserve accounting. So we'll save that and then create the maintenance schedule. It's a little bit different than the one-time ones. Task code is still maintenance. There will be a maintenance call every 6 months, but there will be 2 maintenance calls. So we put 2 in there. First maintenance date is still 9/1/19. In the description I usually put fall/spring tune-up prepaid $150. You can put whatever description that just lets people know that it's a 1-year contract, and we are not creating maintenance parts. Now we've got 2 maintenance line items, which is what we want. We've got the one that we completed already, and then the one for the spring. So let's put in the completion date for this fall one, which is what we just completed here, 10/18/19. Invoice number 683904. If you hit tab, it'll ask if you want to mark it as complete. We'll say yes. The only other thing you do on 1-year contracts is take out this amount. If you don't take out the amount here, it will, when I run the commission reports, it will give them $75 in maintenance revenue, and it will give them $75 in labor revenue. And so it's essentially doubling the revenue, and we don't want that. So remember to take out any amounts on the maintenance schedule. So we'll save that. It might tell you that the amount allocated to the contract is less than the maintenance. It's fine. Just say okay. So then we'll go in and do the ticket. I will go ahead and rename the invoice now. Just put a T behind it. So a little bit different on this part. We still click the contract that we just created, this HV-3. We need to change the invoice amount to $75 because that's all we're recognizing right now is the $75. And then normally in the payment reference, I will put something saying that the actual amount of this check was $150. You don't necessarily have to do that, but it's helpful if anyone wants to go back and look at this ticket and see how they paid. And I will leave this as the HVAC tune-up. Then we just go into the billing items. I'm going to go ahead and delete that 150 line because we're not actually recognizing the whole 150. Make sure this line item says HVAC tune-up, and we're only recognizing $75 for this fall tune-up. Okay, and then we'll just approve that, and I will go ahead and fake print so it's ready to post. So that's a 1-year contract. So we'll do another one of those here. Let's change the invoice number because we know it's a tune-up. You can do this in all different kinds of orders, whichever order you want to do it. As long as you're doing all the steps, it's fine. But let's look at his notes and see that it's the first call of the contract. That's really good that that is in there for us. So let's go to the service location, create that contract. So new 97549 HB-2. We've got the original one, and then we'll do 2. Start date 9/1/19, and it expires 1 year from now. $150 contract, division 65, and the contract type, again, use this prepaid one. If it's a $150 1-year contract, use this non-contract for one-time tune-ups only, and uncheck that reserve accounting box. Then we'll save, create the maintenance schedule. Again, for 1 year, it's going to be maintenance task code, maintenance call every 6 months, 2 maintenance calls, and then the beginning of our contract date there. And we'll put fall, spring tune-up, prepaid $150. No maintenance parts. And then we'll put in the completion date, 10/18, and the invoice number. Hit tab, and yes, we want to mark it complete, and we want to take out the amount of the maintenance schedule. And then we just complete the ticket like normal. Make sure you've got a T behind that invoice number if it's a tune-up. Choose that contract we just created. This is $75 only, but they prepaid $150. That says HVAC tune-up. I'll go in and take that top line item out. And just make sure this says HVAC tune-up. We're recognizing $75 for half of the contract. And then double check the notes to make sure there's nothing we need to know about there. And then I'll approve and fake print. Okay, so that's all for the 1-year contracts. Again, it's a lot of steps, but once you get used to it, it's really pretty easy to do. I wanted to see if there are any customers that were prepaid from last year And usually you can tell those when it says HVAC-PP here. So let me look at one of those. If you go into the ticket and click the work order, see, we can go back and see that there are 2 furnaces and it is prepaid $250. So the way we handle this is somewhat similar to how we create contracts, but first let's go into the service location, go to the contracts, and we'll see that they have an active contract here that expires in March of 2020. So if we double click it and open it, let's go to the maintenance schedule and make sure there's no amounts in here. So again, if you just zero that out and save it, and we see they have 125 left on their account, so we can process this ticket, change that invoice number because it's a tune-up. Now we're recognizing that remaining $125 for this 2-unit tune-up. It already is going to have the contract selected for you. Sometimes if there is already an existing contract, you might see bill items in here that I created. You don't necessarily have to use those, but if you do, I'll show you what it does. Make sure this says HVAC prepaid. So if you do choose that bill item, it will put the line item with 125. You'll see it's connected to the contract, bill number 2, and it already has the right service type on it. So then I can just get rid of this other line item. We're no longer creating bill items, so don't worry too much about that. And again, we see it was 2 furnaces that they did a tune-up on. So I'll go ahead and fake print this. So if the customer already had money on their account, we can see if we can try to apply that payment to this invoice, because as it is right now, there's nothing applied to it. It's going to look like they owe $125. So if you click the service location again, and right-click that call that he was on, and go to Associate Deposit, we want to look and see if there is a positive amount remaining. If there's a negative amount, we can't associate that deposit without Sawin kind of being screwy. So don't associate any money that's negative in here. All you have to do instead is keep track of the AR number or the bill to number. Just write that down on a piece of paper, any of the ones that already have money sitting on their account, and we'll go back and apply that money later. So just keep track of those ARs. You can email them to me or Sherry. If you know how to associate, apply unapplied money, you could do that later after you've already posted everything. It really just depends on the situation, so just keep track of any ARs that the customer already has money on their account. So I will write that one down, and once I post my batch, then I can go back and apply that money, and it won't show this outstanding anymore. So I'm going to do one more of those if there is one here, just so we can see that again. Again, go to the work order and see what they wrote here. They had prepaid $150. We see they have $75 left on their account. So let's go to the service location, contracts, and choose that contract that's already created, and just make sure there's no money in the maintenance schedule. Zero that out and save it. And then we just process the ticket somewhat normally here. Change the invoice number to a tune-up invoice with a T. Make sure we're recognizing that remaining $75 is just 1 unit as opposed to that $125 we did for 2 units before. Contract's already going to be in there. There might be a bill item. We'll choose that. And make sure the service type is HVAC prepaid. And again, when you choose the bill item, it will put all of this in here for you. We'll just delete that first line. We are done with this ticket. Then we'll just double check and see if we can associate the money that is sitting on the customer's account. So this is that furnace tune-up. Right click and click associate deposit, and we see that it's negative, so we can't associate that, so I'll write down the AR number of the customer. And then once the batch is posted, we can go back and apply that money. Okay, so again, that's a lot of steps. It's easy to get once you do a lot of them. So if you need to go back and take some notes on how to do the one-time contracts and just focus on that, that would be fine. You can focus on those and see if you can get those down, because they're a little bit simpler than having to worry about applying money or taking out maintenance amounts or anything like that. So I would focus on the 79s if you can. I'll show you one more of the one-year contracts, if I can find one here, which I may have done most of them. Yeah, I don't see one here. You can also go back and rewatch the one-year contracts and see if you can get those down. If you have any questions, just let me know. There's a lot of steps. It's very easy to forget one of the steps, and if you do, don't worry about it, because I do it all the time too. Anything that you create, we can go back and fix. It's not a big deal. Again, just let me know if you have any questions.